Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the City of Coral Gables and the Friends of South Florida PBS.
In this episode, Art Loft's Season 9 finale. The art is big, bold, and immersive, and it makes a statement.
Here, I want to show you something. My name is Natasha Sakos, and I am, are you ready? A showmaker. I went to New World School of the Arts for college. I realized very quickly is that I didn't want to just be an actor. I wanted to tell my own stories. I was excited about the potential of theater, but not so much about its execution at the moment.
I create things that do not exist yet.
Meanwhile, at New World, I was performing in nightclubs and performing in the streets to support myself. When you're street performing or when you're interacting, this level of interaction, you are sharing a magic moment. And so all these worlds sort of collapsed and coalesced naturally, right? The club culture elements came in, and the rawness and the interactivity from the streets, the classical training. And so I think naturally when I graduated, I realized, well, I want to write my own shows, and I started doing that. And the result was so rigid and linear. You know, what I was imagining was shape-shifting. It was like a drug trip. I don't do drugs, but I feel like I naturally trip. And I feel like that is how I want to express the stories and the journeys that I want to share. As I realized that I didn't want to produce the shows, those linear, rigid shows, I had this epiphany and realized the words were the very problem, because the words grounded us in the literal instead of lifting us up to another level. And that is what's interesting. So I stripped the words from the equation and I said, well, where do I go from there? So I started doodling, literally, my next story. And the doodles took form, and one doodle and next and the next and the next and the next, and then I suddenly had an adventure. I had a journey, I had a story. Upwake tells the story of Zero, who's a modern-day toon character going to work with his life in a suitcase, stuck between dream and reality, and not able to make out the two. And it's definitely a commentary on modern-day life, in a way. I wanted to make it dynamic, and I wanted drawers to open and crazy things to come out, and I wanted Zero's co-workers to be headless, of course, because Zero, while he's always dreaming, is the only one who has his head on his shoulder. And then making his way to a ginormous, almost like what is now a data room, right? Of folders and files where all these headless men come out of. Boop. And then, of course, has to scan himself, because we know we need to be more than one in order to do anything these days. We're living the literal life, all of us. The unliteral is so much more, the abstract, right, is so much more interesting. And that is sort of the realm in which I like to live in. The story always comes first, and then the technology needs to support that process. But then there's sort of a feedback loop, because as we then start to go into production, technology will also inspire possibilities that I might not have thought of.
Super intenso.
I'm not trying to do anything with the stage. I'm trying to do something to people. And that leads me to humanoid, which is what I've been working on for 4.5 years, nearly. So I went to a program called Singularity University based in NASA in Moffett Field, California. We are tasked to come up with an idea that will positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. How can we convert the emotions and energy generated during a show into tangible actions that have positive impact and then scale that? Humanoid tells the story of the last human brain kept captive in a surreal scientific traveling show led by a demented headmaster. And tonight, the brain escapes into people's phones as it tries to make sense of the world. We're going through this extraordinary ride, right, that highlights and raises awareness on some of the most important causes. And then at key moment, your phone is being triggered to do something about it if you wanted to. You'll actually get to donate, sign petitions. It will be a live, epic production when the time is right, but it can also be an interactive reality movie. I pushed the envelope by asking, what now, what next, and what if?
Expanding and accelerating. I am imagination.
Head to natashasakos.com for even more on how she stages impossible dreams in the real world.
Most of the pieces I find in public art, you see something new and different every time. Catherine Cathers, Arts and Culture Specialist for the City of Coral Gables. Coral Gables was founded on the arts, and many of the pieces of the infrastructure for this city were designed by artists. Miami-Dade County actually has one of the oldest art and public places programs in the country. And following in their footsteps, the City of Coral Gables was starting to do a lot more development, and so they decided to adopt their own art and public places policy in 2007, which went into effect in 2010. One of the most popular art and public places pieces that we have is a sculptural piece called Old Shoes, and that is by the artist Hector Lambada. He's from Cartagena, Colombia. And the piece is developed from a poem. Many of our early works were donations, so not only the sister city pieces, like the Old Shoes, but also pieces by a prominent artist, Jean Ward. All of the artworks that we have in our collection, you can view 24/7, wherever they are. So Alice Aycock's piece was the first artwork that we were able to have access into Art Basel, Miami Beach. That led us to our next piece, which was by Carlos Cruz Diaz, another world-renowned artist, who did a design of the painted crosswalks that are in front of City Hall. Geraldo Plaza was one of those happy accidents, happy moments, where doing overhead artwork and installation was not part of the design of the plaza. But as the trees were growing up and we had these open spaces, especially on either end of the plaza, we saw it as an opportunity to incorporate art and immersive experiences like the Umbrella Sky project. When we had the opportunity to work with Kiki Smith, her Blue Night piece, which is consisting of 42 drawings of constellations. That particular piece can also be experienced through an augmented reality application where you see Kiki's drawing itself, and then the lines for the constellations show up at the same time. You can put it in the sky and try to line it up that way. The majority of the people that are viewing the works and experiencing it are the people that are passing by. So whether they're residents that live nearby and they see it every day, or they're visitors that are just passing through, it becomes part of the fabric of the community itself. And actually, the piece here, A Midsummer Night's Dream, you may not notice it when you're passing by, but then you glance over your shoulder or as you're approaching it, and it has that very much of an aha effect.
For us, each and every one of our pieces is to be a place of encounter. Rosario likes to call it an instant landmark at the same time. So our pieces kind of double as instant landmarks and places of encounter. And because of that, we like to call our artworks kind of social sculptures, because they're meant to bring people together.
The pieces are meant to be used by the people, and the people are the owners of the piece.
In this case, for us, it was important to bring a piece of home outdoors. We make the piece very familiar, if you wish. It's something that we have seen on the one hand, but at the same time, it's quite extraordinary. It's like a frozen memory in stone. And being coral stone, the sofa is actually made of Coral Gables. So for us, this is one of our
most site-specific
pieces ever
that we have ever done.
Together with the history of Coral Gables, where the fantastic has always been part of somehow everyday life. You know, the Venetian pool. The piece is pretty much part of that very tradition of the fantastic as part of everyday life.
But then, with the idea of the fantastic becoming part of everyday life, the tree, the sofa and the tree are
one.
So Illuminate Coral Gables started years ago when the mayor first started talking about the idea of adding more light and light-based artwork to the city. And there's a wide variety of artworks in the exhibition, so everything from large-scale projection works to pieces that are more subtle. The City of Coral Gables is founded on the arts and has been important to our past history and is equally important to our history moving forward. We're continuing to expand the collection and continuing to seek out artists and develop opportunities that we have as a city itself and with our private developers.
For more information, visit coralgables.com/art and public places.
Adriana Baringo wanted to start this project where you make it relevant in the contemporary world again by bringing contemporary artists who are not glass artists to work in a new medium and work with these maestros who have, they're generations of experts. So, these people know everything there is to know about glass.
The artists, as certainly we have seen this last year, have responded to contemporary events. Tim Tate's work that is really about the pandemic.
This is his second pandemic because he's an HIV positive artist, but he did go through, so many people dying of AIDS.
The whole idea of glass stress is sort of endemic from the very beginning, from the very concept. Something that was sort of born of fire and becomes this amazing object that is at once fragile, but also there's sort of a durability about it, there's a toughness about it. I mean, I think of the works like Nancy Burson's DNA Has No Color, these block letters, which has a very strong message to it. Or behind me, you see Vic Muniz's large goblets that he takes a simple wine goblet and makes it life-size.
You just associate Venice with those colors and that imagery, and even you see those goblets in paintings, Venetian paintings over the centuries.
Well, it's almost impossible to come to a glass workshop and not to be fascinated by the material. Glass is so flexible. Glass can become almost anything you want. It belongs already to the creative realm.
Each of these works are very different from one another, just as each of the artists are different. And that's what really was so brilliant about the Baringo studio. He's inviting artists of all sorts of persuasions and really test the will of the maestros who are adept at turning this liquid form into something that's provocative and fragile and, as we see in this exhibition, full of meaning.
A video artist could actually make something out of glass, or an installation artist. It's wide open, so it's just for the artist to come up with an idea and for the maestros to figure out how to do it.
I was invited by the curator to participate in glass stress, and I thought this is a great opportunity to try a new material. I have never tried to work with glass before because I know that the technique is so difficult. And I happen to be a sculptor that likes to put the hands in the material. So for me, glass was a fascination. At the same time, I had a certain sense of not being entirely with it.
Another one that's interesting is the Renate Bertelmann. She represented Austria in the Venice Biennale, and you see the glass flowers, but they did a field of over 200 red glass flowers, Barengo Studio did, for the Austrian pavilion. Some artists take, the traditional and update it, like the piece behind you, it's the traditional Murano glass mirror from the 18th century style, but with this ghost image of a Bedouin woman.
I think this exhibition that is born out of Venice, which has seen such difficulties last year, I think it really underscores the resilience that art has.
Head to Instagram at Miami City Ballet to see more of these pop-up performances called To Miami with Love.
All right, whenever you're ready.
George Floyd, Delane Martin, Jamar Rollins, Willie James McDonald, Antonio Butler, Jermaine McBean, Barry Gettius, Travis McNeil, DeCarlo Moore, Nico Crooks, Lynn Weatherspoon. I started to incorporate social justice in my work probably in college. I was given the freedom to address social issues in my work while learning, principles. And I started to really put in text and feeling and specific imagery to send a message. Gregory Ellers Jr., Roberto Ornelas, Salvador Ellswood. So the origin of the series of memorial portraits, it started in 2016 after the death of a 6-year-old child named King Carter. I remember seeing a video of his father. Once I saw that video, I remember feeling helpless, hopeless, angry, all of these things. And I remember asking myself, what can you do about it? So the answer to that question was, you do what you do best, you create. And so I started to create portraits. And in the process of doing research, I came across other victims of gun violence that weren't known.
My father once told me that when you say someone's name, that they're remembered. My niece, Rabia Ahmad, she had a cosmetology business. She was a creative. She was very creative. She was very passionate about her craft. While she was in her home, she was shot on July the 31st, and she was 6 months pregnant at the time of her death.
Lawrence McCoy Jr.
My sister sent me an article with regards to Chire and what she was doing. I saw the article in October. I remember it because I remember thinking to myself, she's been doing this since July. Why am I just hearing about this? So I said, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to go see what she's doing.
Delroy.
To see the names on the wall, yes, it was sad, but at the same time, it was a heartfelt feeling because they were being remembered. And I told her how happy it made me to see this.
I got that call that no mother wants to get. This is his ashes. This is the hat he had on when he was murdered, when he was shot. You can see the blood up under, blood stains. Jack was my oldest son. He had a promising career. No, I'm gonna talk about Chire. It was so amazing that this woman could draw a picture of your child just like he was. You know, it's like I could see Jack again.
You're not going to have closure, but there is a sense of peace and calm that you do see when you come out here and see your loved one's name on the wall.
Gibson Belizar. It's humbling to hear what a work of art can do for someone who is not really from the art world. That appreciation and the ability to have dialogue helped me and informed my work as much as it's helped families. Eric L. Scott, Sincere M. Williams, Edward Foster III.
Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the City of Coral Gables and the Friends of South Florida PBS.